Good evening, my dear friends, and good morning to our dear Sister Miriam down in Dunedin. And it's lovely to have your company at this late hour, and it's lovely to welcome you, Jane. And I pray that those who've joined us and not logged in, you're more than welcome. Can you believe that tonight is series 10 of the Christian Mystics, and we're part 2 on the amazing journey of Mathilde of Magdeburg. And what an amazing mystic this beautiful soul is. So before we begin, let us just be still. Be still and remember the beautiful words of Meister Eckhart. If you never pray, and you only say the 2 words, thank you, you've performed the greatest prayer. The greatest prayer. So I would like to invite your hearts to light a candle for peace and intra-spiritual unity, not inter or interface, because they get lost in dialogue. But intra-spirituality is where we take the knowledge and put it into practice at grassroots level, like here, where we come together with no agenda to convert or coerce another, or leaving them feeling with soul entrapment. So we light our light for peace, but we also light it in gratitude for the great mystics, for the many ordinary men and women who have left us a legacy of love, a legacy of sacred footprints on this sacred earth, where we can emulate their goodness, their compassion, and strive not to be them, but to adopt some of their wonderful ways, their compassion, their absolute trust in a Father, Mother, God Supreme, and their love of nature and the animal kingdom. So we light this light in the name of all that is sacred, to you and to me and to the world. And we offer the next 30 minutes for our highest good and the good of all. And as we begin, I invite you to join me and say the beautiful prayer of entry into our own interior castle, the soul. I cross the bridge into the silent bliss of my castle. I close the drawbridge and forbid all outside influences from entry into this holy place, a place that is my soul. Here in my castle, I am alone with God, and under God's light and companionship, I discover the depth and the beauty of my soul. I embrace the power of prayer, and I open myself up to divine guidance, and I surrender myself to become as a channel of grace for grace, healing, and service as God directs my life. Amen. Each time I say that prayer, and I've said it a lot in training our new monastics as part of their formation as oblates in the community, and each time I read it, there is a deeper awakening, a deeper sense of belonging, in the Cathedral of Light. So we begin our journey tonight with the Christian mystics and with none other than the great Mathilde of Magdeburg. And she says, love flows from God to humans without effort. As a bird glides through the air without moving its wings, thus they go wherever they wish, united in body and soul, yet separates in form. Mathilde suggests that the subtle presence of divine love, the movement of grace, is a simple flowing, coasting like a gliding bird, a gentle movement without effort. It involves not a laborious climb, an aesthetic-driven march, but a kind of gliding. Gliding is defined by silence, stillness everywhere. Have you experienced what Mathilde describes? When? How did it change you? Did it deepen your trust? And she says, from the very beginning, God loved us. He loved you and he loved me. The Holy Trinity gave itself in the creation of all things and made us, body and soul, in infinite love. We were fashioned most nobly. Isn't that awesome? You and I were fashioned most nobly. In the tradition of original blessing instead of original sin, Mathilde declares that we were fashioned most nobly. And from the very beginning, God loved us. We were born in infinite love. This includes our parents, whatever we may perceive their shortcomings to be, as well as the air, the flowers, all creatures, the earth, the stars, the eons. All of it was fashioning most holy, washed in divine love. Even Sister Miriam's bees down there in Dunedin, washed in divine love. Like the three dogs here, Winston, Clemmy and Poppy, snoring their hearts out in the lounge, washed in divine love. The 11 hens nicely cooped up, 5 of them in the tree, the yew tree, and the rest in the coop, washed in divine love. What an awesome thought. But she goes on to say, divinity sings this song to our souls. O lovely rose on the thorn, O hovering bee in the honey, O pure dove in your being, O glorious sun in your setting, O full moon in your course, from you I, your God, will never turn away. What are those words saying to you? I, your God, will never turn you away. We often read or sing the Psalms, and we are encouraged to praise God with our songs. Here Mathilde turns the tables. God is praising and singing and presenting the psalmody to us. That's a nice change, isn't it? Have you ever heard divinity singing to your soul? What did or might it sound like? Well, I've got a vague recollection going back to 5 in the morning on the 8th of December 1968. It was winter, bitterly cold, frosty, foggy, where I was being received and ordained as a nursing monk in those early hours, and I felt something here. It was a shift, but I was too young, too inexperienced on the spiritual path to comprehend at 18 and a half years old. But now at 65, going on 66, when I read these words, I know that God sings to the soul of the beloved. And when you or I surrender our hearts to God in service as God directs you, not as your ego wants to direct you, the divine sings to your soul. Many nights or mornings when I lie there in bed, looking at my little altar with the lamp burning, the candle burning 24/7, and I'm woken up every 2 hours throughout the night to be still and to reawaken my heart that my God loves me, despite what my church told me, despite what my religion told me, that I was a sinner, that I was useless, and that I had to prove myself to God. That was the theology I grew up with as a nursing monk, where you were put down. But when I read this, it's liberation theology. It's beauty unfolding for me, an old monk. Is this another way to say we are made in the image of God? Notice McKilt's use of must. This is not a moral must, a duty, an obligation, or a commandment. It is an organic must, a natural must, a kind of fate or destiny. We cannot help but reflect the beautiful sun. Francis called him Brother Sun. Have you had this experience in which you felt God shining and were compelled to respond and reflect that light? Have you? And she says, I ponder much and reflect in my human sense how wonderful my soul is. I'm going to read that again. I ponder much and reflect in my human sense how wonderful my soul is. How often do you ponder the wondrous nature of your soul? How it gives life and meaning to your senses? Do you stop once a month, once a week, once an hour, to appreciate your inner self, the joy, the beauty, the wonder, and the delight, the thoughts and dreams that go on inside of you? Can you remember the last time you did this? If not, take a break from whatever distracts you. Television, work, compulsive habits, and do so. It is time well spent. But the great Thomas Aquinas, the Dominican, says, the very sight of God causes delight. At the sight of God, the mind can do nothing but delight. Like McKilt, Thomas Aquinas speaks of the mind undergoing the must of delight. For Aquinas in the 13th century, mind was much more than the thinking brain of Descartes and modern European thinkers. The mind included the imagination and the memory, the capacity for wonder and for birthing creativity. In the presence of God, Aquinas says, humans don't suddenly know, they delight. All doubt, skepticism, and even thinking give way to overwhelming delight. Is it important that our understanding excuse me, of human consciousness includes delight at its base? Can we give delight if we have not tasted it first? Can we taste it if we don't praise it as a goal and a value? It's like saying to someone, I love you. I've said it all my life. Oh, I love you. Not sexually, but I love you. But inwardly, I hated myself. I loathed myself. I detested myself. I never felt good enough, ever. Even as a monk in holy orders, we were trained to despise ourselves. We were trained to dislike the body. We were trained with that negative mindset that made many of us ill, and many are ill today in many of the monasteries. Many are on tranquilizers to try and blot out the nightmare. And that's fact. But today, I can honestly say in my heart that if I say I love you, it means that I love myself. I've embraced the divine in me. So when I say I love you, I mean it. Because I'm honoring the divine in me, who allows me love myself. But many despise themselves. They do not like who they are. And isn't it sad that many spend a fortune on various surgery to their face, their eyes, their breasts, their face, their tummy tucks. Many change their eyebrows and how they look. Why can't people just look in the mirror and thank God for who they are? That they've been created in the image and likeness of beauty. They are of noble worth, of noble birth. Maybe that's something to reflect on. Now, Thomas Aquinas says, joy is a human being's noblest act. Joy is a human being's noblest act. This is an earth-shattering statement. It turns the past 400 years of Western European thinking upside down. Aquinas, one of the great geniuses who ever lived, does not declare that rationality is our noblest act. Joy is joy. Joy is the beginning and the end of all we do. It is the best we do. If Aquinas is correct, we can ask, is our educational system operating from joy? Our media, our politics, our economics, our religions, our worship. If not, how do we change so that joy and nobility guide our souls and society again? How do we keep alive our nobility as a species? How do we keep it alive? How would you like to keep yours alive? So many of my fellow colleagues, monks and nuns that I worked with and lived with and prayed with over the years, not many have joy in their life. They always look sad. I know when I look at all the pictures of me as a monk, I always looked sad. And now I know why. Because I didn't have joy in my servanthood. I had a deep sadness, but now I'm free. Are you free? Are you really free? And if not, would you like to be free? Because freedom comes the moment you let go of wanting to control your life and to do things exactly as God directs your heart. That's the key, as God directs your heart. And Aquinas says, all things love God. All things are united according to friendship, to each other and to God. Given the state of the world, it would seem this is a naive teaching that all things love one another. From a brilliant but naive pre-modern thinker, or is this the mystic's way of recognizing what science today calls the interconnection of all things? If all things are interconnected, isn't there a wisdom in seeing all things as friends? Isn't friendship about interconnectivity? Can we take today's science and bathe it in the graceful waters of mystical awareness to get at its deepest meanings? Aquinas may be teaching us the meaning of what today's science is rediscovering. And finally, God is most joyful and is therefore supremely conscious, said Aquinas. God is most joyful and is therefore supremely conscious. We hear a lot about consciousness today, but does anyone connect consciousness and joy? For example, joy is not just our noblest act, but a birthplace of consciousness. Because God is most joyful, God is most conscious. The same would clearly hold for us. The more joy we tap into, the greater our consciousness. Can we, when we want more self-awareness and conscious understanding, reach for joy? Can we birth a culture that puts joy first? Well, let us end it there for tonight, and let us now come into the monastery garden. Let us be still in the presence of love. Let us come home to joy. And as we come in and find our place in the cathedral of life, we are joined by the animal kingdom, the tree devas, the elementals, the angels and archangels, and the spiritual teachers. And we are in a place of love. And all around us we see mirrors, beautiful golden mirrors, reflecting the rays of Brother Sun. And there is a presence. It is joy. We look into the faces of one another and we see a deep-rooted inner joy. a joy that only comes from sacrifice, where we've surrendered our ego, where we have donated our heart to the mystical heart of divine consciousness. And in that surrender, we encapsulate all that is joy. We become joy. And with each in-breath that we breathe in this cathedral of light of mirrors, we are breathing in God's joy. And through our feet, Mother Earth is releasing her joy. The animal kingdom are sharing their joy. And when we come to stand in a circle of light, we become a circle of joy. We become a living prayer of joy. No words. The sheer fact of holding one another, embracing one another in silence, in reverence, in benediction, we have come to embrace joy. It is God's joy. And we feel our spirit raising to a higher level with this divine joy. There is an explosion of love that comes from the I Am presence within us, God's joy. And in holding one another in this circle of love, we each transmit joy. We become a chain with links of joy. And suddenly, we are aware that God is in our midst, our Father, Mother, God, Supreme. We are burning with joy. And into this center we bring one another, and our hurts, our brokenness, our excuses to face fear. We bring every child of God, of all faiths and none, who are wounded. The Father, Mother, God brings them to us for us to embrace them in joy, in love, in peace. And as we close in the circle, we get tighter and tighter and tighter, so that we can't move our arms. And the Spirit of God comes upon us and anoints us with joy. With joy. And Mother Earth is allowing joy to come from the earth up to our heart. And the Spirit of God is bringing the joy from the celestial city down through our crown chakra into our heart, infused with joy. And as we breathe in now, we breathe in the joy, and in our out-breaths, we release joy. Joy to the world. Joy to every child of God. Be still and feel the magnetic pull of joy. in your heart. Sense the presence of God, a God of joy, a God of peace and love. And stay in that center of joy and let nothing take it from you. And you feel all your sufferings, your aches and your pains, your depression, the dark night being drained away from you now, down through your feet, through your 7 roots to Mother Earth. And you stand as a tree of life in the cathedral of life, a cathedral of joy. And it is time to come now, to hug, to bless and release, and to begin your journey home to where you are now, bringing with you renewed joy. And all around you there is light. There is a benediction of joy where you live, in your workplace, with your family and loved ones and all your pets. Joy. And remember, at this very moment, you have become a servant of joy. Peace. Namaste. Now go now from this place and bring joy. Bring joy. Bring joy. Praise you, Jesus. And we close, my dear friends, with the beautiful words as we leave our castle. And we say these words in joy. I am a channel of grace. As I leave my castle, my soul, grace surrounds me and grace protects me. I enter my life under the blessing of God, and I remain open to receive guidance from my soul. Go in the peace of all that is sacred to you. Go as a servant of joy to the joyless. Namaste. Shalom inshallah paxet bonum. Om Shanti. Solo di caritas. Salam alaikum. And may the peace of all that is sacred to you reawaken within your I am presence that you are burst in joy, a noble child of God. You are nobility in the eyes of God. God bless you and thank you